Hey guys, Spirit of the Law here. In this video, we're going to take a look at the new water overhaul in the upcoming DLC, going into some depth. On one level, this is intended to be a guide to how it all works, but I also think it brings up an interesting discussion over whether or not at least some of these new ideas being introduced could be applied to the base game of AoE2 for everyone. It's no secret, in general, water maps are not very popular, while players are generally less familiar and confident when playing them. But if you were to ask a casual player to explain how water dynamics work in AoE2, they would probably point to the rock-paper-scissors relationship between fire ships, galleys, and demo ships, where each in theory has a counter, and one of those they're good against. Except that doesn't necessarily hold up to scrutiny, and demo ships have always been an odd man out. They're best known for destroying armies of archers in shallows, and are sometimes used to surprise attack bunched up fire galleys attacking a dock, for example, but we don't really see this exact water triangle playing out in practice. More often, fire galleys are the most common opening, while the galley line, once you reach a significant mass, ends up beating everything later on. It's closer to a crossbow and knight dynamic between those two main lines, where the interaction reverses with large armies, and demo ships are just thrown in every once in a while. I think it's probably too reductionist to say water is unpopular because there are a limited number of ship types, but the upcoming campaign DLC Battle for Greece takes things in an interesting new direction, so let's take a close look at how they do it. First things first, instead of 4 types of warships, in the DLC you have 6. There is still a fundamental water triangle of units underpinning everything, but rather than jump straight to that, I think it'll make more sense if we build this up in the order that the units are actually available, starting in the Dark Age. At that point, the only naval building you can create is the port, which trains your economic ships for fishing, trade, as well as transport, and you have one military ship, the Lembos, and you actually get one for free with the first port you build. Individually, they cost 30 food and 50 wood after that, as actually the only military ship that doesn't cost gold. It basically functions as a hybrid between a fast scouting ship you can use to find the enemy, but then also combines that with the existing fire galley. They actually attack very slowly, so they're not as good at taking out fishing ships, but can be at least a bit of a threat, and are fast enough to chase them down. Stats-wise, they have high pierce armor and low attack, just like a fire galley, though it's better to think of them as a less dangerous, slower firing version that also costs food, slowing down your advance times. Still, you could make a group of 3 on the way up to Feudal and do some early fishing ship raiding if you wanted to. Next, after you reach Feudal Age, the Lembos can be upgraded for more HP, attack, including attack rate, pierce armor, and range, and can continue to be upgraded right through to the Imperial Age, as the whole line is your fire ship equivalent. Feudal Age, though, is also when you unlock the new shipyard, which is your military naval production building. At this point, all we have are these scout/fire ship battles, and what we'd want as a reward for aging up and making this new building is, of course, a counter to our opponent's fire ships. The shipyard actually gives you 2 options to do that. The first is the incendiary raft, which is just the demo raft, and like I said, that's not really an ideal basis for our navy, which usually leads to AoE2's characteristic mass fire galley battles. But in the DLC is where we reach the first major innovation. The shipyard also gives you the monoream, which functions as a melee ramming ship. These cost wood and gold, helping get us off our food dependency to produce ships, and has a charge attack with a +9 damage burst every 30 seconds to start off a fight. Now both the fire and ram ships are doing melee damage to each other, but the ram ship has more melee armor plus more attack, so head to head it has a major edge. With equal numbers, you get something like 80% of the monoream's HP left over when going up against even upgraded feudal fire ships. Now you could micro the fire ships a bit, as they have a bit of range, but they still do just 1 damage per attack to ram ships, while taking either 5 damage or 14 from a charge attack every now and then, so it's a very hard counter. Now I should note incendiary rafts can also win, and a few now and then to soften up enemy fire ships can be useful, like in regular AoE2, but keep in mind they cost significantly more in total resources, and you can see the difference in results, where the ramming ship was acting like a proper counter. So far, we have the basic scout/fire ship with now 2 counters, one that works especially well as a catch-up mechanic to deal with a large mass of enemy fire ships, and the other that works especially well when you have a numbers advantage to charge attack through your opponent's fleet. But now how do they prevent everyone from just massing monoreams, or the ram ships? This is where the last Feudal Age option comes in, the galley. This is just an exact 1-to-1 reskin of the feudal galley from AoE2, featuring good range, attack, and pierce armor for the usual 90 wood and 30 gold. Whereas the other ships all do melee damage, this one does pierce damage from range. Remember, monoreams trade some pierce armor for melee armor, so galleys are able to get a fair amount of damage through. In practice, if you just sit and tank the rams, galleys can actually lose, or at least it's a very close fight. so they aren't a hard counter in all cases. But with even a bit of micro to mess with the ram's pathing, it's clear that galleys are a decent counter, and are even faster than monoremes, making this even easier. So then what's the counter to galleys? Things here come full circle, or should I say full triangle, and the Lembos High Pierce Armor lets it resist galleys while also outrunning them to negate their micro. If a player in Feudal Age tries to overinvest in any of the major ship lines, you'll have a clear response. The question then is whether or not this is an improvement over AoE2's naval system in Feudal Age. In my opinion, it is. You still have the demo ship, but it's no longer trying to be a part of a water triangle that it just never really fit into. But we're not done yet. Once you get up to Castle Age, they then add another twist. All of these units, of course, can be upgraded to better versions and keep the same dynamics between them. But we get a new option, the Catapult ship. Now this is not like the Catapult Trireme in AoE1, which was just anti-building. Instead, this has more similarity to a Droman, albeit with much shorter range, and even visually is pretty explicit in how it's meant to be used by having a mangonel on it. Assuming you have a mix of the three naval types and are dealing with bigger and bigger fleets, what you might be open to is something expensive but population and space efficient that packs a lot of punch. These are 140 wood and gold each, so more than double the cost of any of the others, with a trade-off of being vulnerable in melee because of minimum range. Just seeing how they do against double their number of galley line units though, it's pretty obvious what they bring to the table, and feel like a hard counter to anyone massing that line. I almost see it as a way to flex an economic advantage you have over an opponent, and are surprisingly good at just brute forcing their way through the other types of ships, even keeping in mind they're double the cost. Ideally, you'd have something else in front to protect them, even just the fire ship line to save gold for your big boys, basically recreating the classic Halb and Onager combo except on water. Keep in mind they do have friendly fire though, just like mangonels and onagers, so watch out for that. Now that's most of the story right there, but finally in Imperial Age, in addition to being able to upgrade your existing ship lines, you unlock one last one, the Leviathan. At first glance, this is basically just a reskinned cannon galleon, also requiring the equivalent of chemistry to be researched, but outranges defensive buildings, while being hugely expensive, even more so than cannon galleons, and slow to reload. Now, it does have a surprise bonus effect though, of making warships within a 5-tile radius attack 18% faster, which is presumably why they cost more than regular cannon galleons. The effect doesn't stack with multiple Leviathans, but means even without targeting buildings, it may be worth including at least one or two mixed in with your fleet. The DLC actually loves aura effects like this, using them in a lot of their units. Now there are some slight wrinkles I should mention, with Athenians missing the last fire ship upgrade, Achaemenids missing the last demo ship and onager ship upgrade, as well as Spartans missing the last galley line upgrade and shipwright. There's also the issue of the Lembos fire ship line requiring a different type of dock than the others that you have to balance in all of this, making that switch a bit harder than pivoting between shipyard units. I should also mention there's a new tech at the dock that gives ships +1 pierce armor, basically to resist the galley line slightly more in the Third Age, which is great for ramming ships in particular. So zooming out, while there are 6 different military ships, it doesn't feel like you really need to think about all 15 unique ship interactions, despite looking quite complicated at first glance, especially since the demo raft and cannon galleon equivalents have pretty niche use cases. The two major innovations that strike me are first the ramming ship, acting as an actual fire ship counter. If AoE2 was aiming for a more complex dynamic in the early game especially, that's a potential new ship role that could definitely break up the usual mass fire galley and make water feel less snowbally. They could even allow the fire ship to be made even more specialized against the galley line, as there would now be a legitimate counter to mass fires. And to be clear, this would all be in addition to the demo ship line, as I'd hate to lose that from the game. The second innovation is a siege-like onager ship line. The existing Droman could easily be repurposed to have a shorter range and given to every civilization in Castle Age, just like how the new DLC handles it. Or it could just be a generic Imperial Age unit, with the cannon galleon given back to the current Droman civs to fill that anti-building role. I'm very curious what players' reaction to all this is going to be in the new DLC once they get their hands on it, and it's really the perfect place for this kind of experimentation of new mechanics. Hopefully this at least allows any of you trying the DLC to hit the water running, or that this was even interesting for those of you who aren't picking it up. That'll do it for this one though. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you next time.